If one thing is known about Fallout's post-apocalyptic wasteland, is that it's filled with the cruelest and most vile characters known to man. While not always the case, this description can also fit your character. As a role-playing game, the Fallout franchise often lets you, the player, create any sort of character you see fit. If that's a no-nonsense savior of humanity, that's fine. And if it's a wild and free agent of chaos, so be it. And so, in honor of the latter, let's explore the evilest you can be. As a quick side note, this isn't an exhaustive list of evil things you can do in Fallout. If that were the case, we would be here all day. Honorable mentions go to creative murders, exploiting helpless wastelanders, and telling dog meat bad dog. With that all out of the way, let's get into it. These are the worst decisions you can make in Fallout. Cannibalism. In the post-apocalyptic world of the Fallout franchise, players are constantly faced with choices that test the limits of their character's morality. One of the most chilling and unsettling decisions a player can make is to embrace the dark path of cannibalism. Cannibalism is not only a taboo act, but also a reflection of the extreme measures some are willing to take to survive in the wasteland. While cannibals can be encountered in every installment of the franchise, it is from Fallout 3 onwards that the player character has the option of committing cannibalism themselves. Through the cannibal perk, the player can now feast upon the flesh of their fallen enemies, restoring a bit of HP in doing so. Lore-wise, the implications of taking the perk are significant. By choosing to become a cannibal, the player character actively embraces their darker instincts and betrays the remnants of humanity. Rather than becoming a savior, one becomes its destroyer. As a cannibal, if caught, the player character becomes shunned and feared by NPCs, granting them negative karma. Even in a world where survival is often a brutal struggle, many folks still recognize cannibalism as a disturbing crime against nature. While the official Fallout games offer the cannibal perk as an evil karma choice to sustain oneself, the modding community has taken things a step further, allowing players to engage in even more disturbing acts when it comes to consuming human flesh. One often misremembered cannibal event comes at the end of Fallout 3's The Pit DLC. Upon encountering baby Marie, typically two options are presented: leave the baby alone, or kidnap her. However, with the acquired immunity mod, a third option was presented for those who have the cannibal perk: eat the baby. Now, as this option is a mod and not actually in the base game, it is of course a non-canon event. Still, I feel it's a bit too humorous to not mention. But maybe it shows how some players have a desire to explore the darker themes of the game's universe, pushing past the original content of the games. Now, being a cannibal yourself is evil enough on its own, but there are a few instances in the universe where you can actually aid other cannibals satiate their own hunger. Two notable examples can be found in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4's Far Harbor. In New Vegas, players encounter a group of former cannibals known as the Gourmands. Once a tribal group part of the Vegas area, the Gourmands now run a casino and restaurant called the Ultralux on the New Vegas Strip. In exchange for a glamorous life on the Strip, the Gourmands agreed to abandon their cannibalistic ways. However, behind the upscale facade of their establishment, some Gourmands secretly engage in cannibalism and are attempting to return their tribe back to their old ways. Players have the option to aid the Gourmands through the Beyond the Beef side quest. By helping Second-in-Command Mortimer deal with both Gundersons during the quest, the Gourmands will return to cannibalism. In the Far Harbor expansion for Fallout 4, players can receive the Turn Back the Fog side quest from Small Bertha. Bertha tasks you with securing the Echo Lake lumber mill. Upon clearing the area of ghouls, a lone trapper will reveal themselves. This is Malcolm. Malcolm explains that he is actually the owner of this land and gives you a counteroffer. In exchange for some caps, you are to convince a group of settlers that the lumber mill is safe. In actuality, however, Malcolm plans to ambush and eat the unwary group, like leading lambs to the slaughter. Without taking part in cannibalism yourself, the option to aid other cannibals like the Gourmands or Malcolm offer up alternative ways to be downright despicable, whether by consuming the flesh of others, engaging in depraved acts through mods, or aiding cannibal factions. Players are given the ability to be the evilest they can be. Slavery. Within the wastelands of Fallout, players are often confronted with the darkest aspects of humanity. One of the most chilling choices that players can partake in is the act of slavery. In Fallout 3, players have the opportunity to become slavers by aligning themselves with the group at Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls is a fortified compound in the capital wasteland, serving as a hub for the region's slave trade. By accepting the Paradise Falls side quest, Strictly Business, one will start down the dark road of becoming a slaver themselves. The quest tasks you with capturing 4 VIP targets to bring back to the compound. But your slaver days don't end with the completion of the quest. One can continue to capture NPCs in exchange for caps. Becoming a slaver is one of the darkest actions that a player can take. The act of enslaving individuals strips them of their freedom, dignity, and life. Who are normal people trying to eke out an existence in a chaotic world are now subjected to a fate potentially worse than death. But even if one doesn't explicitly become a slaver themselves, they still have the option of engaging with Fallout's slave trade. One of the most chilling unmarked quests in Fallout 3 is the Kid Kidnapper quest. This quest sees the lone wanderer deliver Little Lamplight's youngest resident, a 6-year-old named Bumble, to a child slaver. As Lamplight stands as a symbol of the future and hope for the capital wasteland, through completing the quest, the player swiftly puts an end to that. Furthermore, while the Fallout 4 base game has fewer evil options than other titles, one can still commit human trafficking. After freeing Billy Peabody from his refrigerator prison, one has the choice to sell the child to a gunner named Bullet. Billy, once trapped and desperately missing his family, is now subjected to a world of suffering, all for the benefit of the player character. And in Fallout New Vegas, players can choose to betray their companion, Arcade Gannon, by selling him to the Legion. Arcade is a morally upright and compassionate character, dedicated to helping others and fighting for justice. However, players can choose to betray his trust and well-being by selling him to Kaiser to be his personal doctor. This act strips Arcade of his freedom and eventually leads to his suicide, as noted in the ending slides. By becoming a slaver, trading innocent lives for monetary gain, and aiding in the oppression of others, players descend into the deepest depths of depravity. These actions are some of the evilest you can take. Nuclear warfare. Fallout's wasteland came to be through the cavalier use of nuclear weapons. A global conflict went past the point of no return, and the world was forever changed. Yet, it would appear that this world-altering event and the ensuing catastrophe did not result in a lesson learned. As many times during the franchise, the player character has the opportunity to harness nuclear bombs for their own gain. Fairly early on in Fallout 3, a well-dressed man, Mr. Burke, confronts you with a proposal. Detonate the megaton bomb in exchange for some caps and a suite at Tenpenny Tower. Megaton is a struggling but tight-knit community built around an undetonated nuclear bomb. Its residents are doing their best to survive amidst the chaos of the capital wasteland. However, you as the player have the choice of detonating the bomb, reducing Megaton to rubble, and obliterating its inhabitants. This grand act of destruction serves as a strong foundation for evil karma characters, as it is one of 3 actions that give the most negative karma. In addition, choosing to nuke Megaton reveals a willingness to embrace the same devastating power that brought about the Great War in the first place. The annihilation of Megaton shows that even in a world already ravaged by nuclear war, there are still those who would use such destructive forces without hesitation, you being one of them. But Fallout 3 is not the only game that sees player characters harness the power of the atom. In the Fallout New Vegas expansion, Lonesome Road, players venture to the barren landscape of the Divide, a region scarred by the horrors of nuclear ruin. After following the trail left by Ulysses, players are given the option to launch a pair of nuclear missiles, targeting either the NCR, Legion, or both. This decision has far-reaching consequences as it unleashes destruction upon entire communities and reinforces the cyclical nature of violence and retribution that defines post-apocalyptic life. The act of launching nuclear strikes in the Divide is yet another evil decision players can make, perpetuating the cycle of violence that has plagued not only the Wasteland, but the entirety of the Fallout universe. And yet another example of the player character having the choice of partaking in mankind's destruction comes in the latest Fallout title. In Fallout 76, players can once again wield the terrifying power of nuclear weapons, with them being able to choose their targets within the Appalachian region. While the game rewards you for targeting certain locations that house monstrous entities, anywhere on the game map can be chosen. As Appalachia is now a land filled with struggling survivors trying to rebuild society, the player can work against this collective goal and bring ruin to the region. While in-game, of course, this doesn't amount to much destruction to the surrounding rebuilding efforts, one would have to imagine that, in-universe, granting dozens of Vault Dwellers the means to destroy the region could go quite poorly if there is one rotten apple in the bunch. The choice to launch nuclear strikes in Appalachia offers one way to make your Vault Dweller from 76 particularly evil. While they may have legitimate reasons for targeting certain locations, like in the main story, the outcome is the same: a devastating show of power that leaves a lasting impact on the already suffering wasteland. By unleashing a second nuclear apocalypse on struggling communities and lands, whether it be Megaton, the Mojave, or Appalachia, one is left to wonder if they're no better than those who initiated the Great War in the first place. Launching nukes is the evilest you can be. The bad endings. The Fallout games are all about choice. In a morally complex world, players are often put in situations that force them to grapple with their own sense of morality. Among the darkest of these choices are the bad endings, where players align themselves with villainous factions and make decisions that lead to catastrophic outcomes. These choices can alter the player's role as a protagonist and allow them to embrace their antagonist ways, becoming evil. In the climax of Fallout 3, players are presented with a crucial decision. After President John Henry Eden offers the Lone Wanderer a vial of modified FEV, they have the choice of poisoning Project Purity, a water purification system designed to provide clean water for the wasteland's inhabitants. In making this choice, players betray the hopes of countless survivors relying on the purifier to better their lives. This action is one of pure cruelty, as there is no discernible benefit for the player, just suffering for those around them. Like detonating the megaton bomb, poisoning Project Purity leads to the greatest negative karma gain in Fallout 3, And as the game ends shortly after activating the purifier, outside of the negative karma gain, there is no grand reward for doing Eden's bidding. Poisoning Project Purity is one of the evilest decisions a player can make. However, the introduction of the Broken Steel DLC allowed for players to continue the main story of Fallout 3. With it came yet another bad ending. The main story quest sees you take control of the Bradley Hercules satellite and use it to launch an orbital strike at a target. The Brotherhood of Steel's plan, with whom you find yourself aligned with, is to use the platform to destroy the Enclave's mobile base crawler. However, a more chaos-inclined lone wanderer can instead opt to turn against the Brotherhood and target their base, the Citadel, instead. This decision leads to Lion's Brotherhood being utterly destroyed, leaving only scattered Brotherhood outposts across the capital wasteland. While Project Purity is activated one way or another during the base game, resolving part of the Brotherhood's objective, their desire to keep the wasteland safe will fail, all thanks to the actions of the Lone Wanderer. With no leadership amongst Lion's Brotherhood of Steel, it's likely that their greatest rival, the Vault 87 supermutants, will gain a better foothold in the wasteland. And as this decision is the final act that grants the most negative karma in Fallout 3, its position as one of the most evil acts a player can commit is confirmed. But it's not only Fallout 3 that has some truly evil endings. In the Dead Money DLC for Fallout New Vegas, players encounter the jaded Elder Elijah, a brilliant yet ruthless scientist hell-bent on unlocking the secrets of the Sierra Madre Casino. In the climax of the DLC, players have the option to align themselves with Elijah and aid him in his sinister plans, which includes subjugating the Mojave Wasteland in order to begin again. Choosing to support Elijah in his twisted endeavors proves to be a truly evil act. Upon doing so, the game abruptly comes to an end. A narration over a lone ending slide begins to play. The slide documents the future of the Mojave, with a mysterious blood-red cloud beginning to roll across the region, killing thousands in its wake. Through siding with the deranged elder, one actively takes part in the suffering of countless others. And as this is one of the very rare instances where a choice leads to an early game over state, you know it must be a particularly evil choice. Perhaps one of the most infamous choices in Fallout New Vegas is deciding who the Courier will side with in the second battle of the Hoover Dam. It's no mistake that of the 4 factions to choose from, it is Caesar's Legion that appears to be the most evil of the bunch. The Legion is a brutal and oppressive faction known for slavery, crucifixions, and general disregard for human life. By aligning oneself with Caesar and his goons, players actively support a regime that thrives on cruelty and subjugation. This choice represents a near-complete abandonment of moral values, as players actively contribute to the Legion's reign of terror across the wasteland. Assassinating a president, bombing public transit, and slaughtering an ill-equipped camp are all part of the Legion's questline. It requires a certain willingness to commit heinous acts in the name of power and survival, allowing the player to carry out the role of being an antagonist. By taking on the antagonistic role, whether it be siding with the villains or simply being an agent of chaos yourself, you become the evilest you can be. And that is several examples of some of the worst decisions you can make in the Fallout franchise, from cannibalism and slavery to launching nukes and partaking in the bad endings. These choices show just how truly despicable the player character can become. Whether driven by survival, power, or relishing in the suffering of others, the world of Fallout is no stranger to evil characters, and at times, you may find that character to be none other than yourself. But that's all from me today, folks. If you liked the video, be sure to share and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
You can't do this to me. This is a mistake.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
The hell I will.
Stand back, citizens. Deceased bodies are a known source of illness and a potential tripping hazard.